Welcome back, Express Entry Law Facebook group members. My name is Mark Holthe, and we are here live again for another Express Entry Q&A session. Now, I want to tell you that I've got a lot of things that I want to teach you today. And many of you know that I'm a Canadian immigration officer, a Canadian immigration lawyer currently. I was an ex-immigration officer and a former teacher. So today, if I had one, I would put on my teacher hat because I want to share a few things with you just to help you guys understand a little bit about some of the other programs that are available for some immigrants to come to Canada. So I'm going to cover a few different programs. I'm also going to take the time to teach you about a few changes that I've made to our Express Entry Law group just to make it better and safer, I guess, if you will. And I also am going to touch on one of the Express Entry Law Facebook group members had posted about proof of funds, and it was kind of a unique proof of funds question. So I'm going to address that, and I'm just looking at my list here. And many of you are wondering, what does it take for an employer to issue you a job offer? What is this labor market impact assessment? What is it all about? And I think if you guys knew or had a better idea of what it takes for an employer to actually get a labor market impact assessment and ultimately be eligible to issue you a job offer, then you wouldn't be posting all these questions about whether or not this magical job offer was fake or not. I will tell you guys right off the bat, if you are posting on our website a job offer that you've received, or I should say on our Facebook page, a job offer that you've received, or even on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel, is this real? Is this fake? Well, if you're asking, 99% of the time, that's going to be fake. So I'm going to take the time to show you guys and explain exactly how it works. All right? Okay, so at this stage, it's interesting. I've got a new update to my EE Live Q&A. I use a program called eCam Live, and it's really good. And there's lots of different features. And now they've allowed me to spread out my comments so I can see them a little bit better. And so I see Mohammed is here. Hi, Mark. He says, hi, Mohammed. We've got Piyush, Abhishek, Yadwinder, and Raju. So you guys, let me know where you're listening in from. Some of you guys I know for sure that you guys are over in India or Pakistan, but I love to see where you guys are all listening from because I know it's really late there. Raju says, hi, Mark. Glad to hear you found your bike. Yes, my friend. I am so excited. The police officers, you know what? While we're waiting for a few people to jump on the call, I'm going to share with you what happened. And unfortunately, I didn't put the pictures of my bike up here, but I can share my screen. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to share my screen, which is massive, and I am going to pull up my own private Facebook page. I'm going to show you guys. This is really cool. Actually, I'm going to have to close these comments out of here so they're not visible. Actually, maybe they're not. Doesn't even look like they are, just my ugly face is. And now my face is in the bottom left corner. Boy, I don't know how this thing works. You guys are my beta testers as I figure out this new eCam Live update, which is really cool. Anyways, let me go to my private page here. And I want to show you, this is my own personal one. And I'm going to see if I can find the one with my bike. This was awesome. Festival of Nativities. We did that at a church on Sunday. Here we go. So here's the post that I posted. And I'm going to enlarge this so you guys can see. Okay. So this is basically where I said my lovely bike here, my Kona Caldera, this is the one I ride, was stolen. And look at this picture on the right. I think some of you can probably see it. I'll blow it up really big so you can see it really well. Okay. So there's my bike and there's the cable. This guy came to my law firm and actually, and if I turn my camera, you can't really see, but back there in the corner, I know my image is small there, really small, but back in the corner there is where I keep my bike, and it was chained up. Well, it was late on a Saturday, and I didn't want to ride back, and so my daughter came, and she picked me up. And anyways, I made the wrong decision to leave my bike here, and so someone stole it. So I posted right here on my Facebook page how much that lovely Kona Caldera bike meant to me. And then I asked all my friends to share it. And so you can see here, if I go down to this post, there are over 108 shares. So all my friends shared it with everybody else. And lo and behold, someone, this lovely Christina Diane here, said, hey, there's a gold Kona bike at the apartments on the corner. So she posted this, would have been on Thursday probably at 5:46 p.m. I didn't get it till like 3 a.m. in the morning. And so I told my wife, I said, you know what? I'm going to go look. And this area was a real sketchy area of town. And I went and I said, well, that's not my seat. So I don't know if I can blow this picture up. Okay. I said, well, that seat isn't my seat. But then I looked at the bike right beside it, CCM. Hey, wait a minute. That seat goes to this other bike. And you can see that the front rim is dark and then the back rim is silver. That's because I swapped out the back tire because the rim was wore out. And these are my semi-slick tires that I use on it when I'm traveling on the pavement. And so needless to say, I got my bike back. I went there. I confirmed it. I took some pictures. I reached out to one of my friends who's a police officer in town, and he was able to send an officer over, and it worked out awesome. So I wanted to share that with all of you guys. I am super stoked because I did not anticipate getting my bike back, but I did. So life is good. I am super happy. And yeah, but unfortunately, as you can see outside, I don't know if you can see, take a look, guys. You can probably see there is snow piled on the vehicles. So Mr. Mark is not going to be riding anytime soon until that snow melts away. But it came down hard. And tonight, with my youth group and the young men that I work with, we're going shoveling snow. So we're doing a service tonight. We're going to throw our snow shovels in the back of the truck and go and shovel all over. Okay. You guys make me talk about this. I didn't, you're the ones who post the questions and then get me talking. Okay. We've got a great group here. What I want to do is, you guys who are just jumping on, let me know where you're listening from. I love to see, and I always go back and read the comments to see where people are listening from all over the world. So please do that. All right. What are we going to talk about today? Well, right off the bat, I want to talk about some of the recent changes that I have made to our Express Entry Law Facebook group. And before we get to that, I just want to remind everyone that because our group is getting so large, it is impossible for me to answer individually all your questions. So please don't be offended if you post, hey, Mark, answer my question, and then I don't answer or I don't respond. We're up to, well, what are we at now? If I open up our page and I take a look here, I'm going to shrink this down. It's pretty big. If I look at the number of people we have in our group right now, we are sitting at, oh boy, let's see. I can't even see. Let me blow up my page here. And then I go back to here and we're sitting at 83,571 members. So I think you guys can appreciate that there are more people than I can possibly hope to be able to respond to on an individual basis. So hopefully you guys will be patient with me. The best way to get free information from me is by posting a question that is of benefit to everyone else in the group, and then I'll answer it right here on our EE Live Q&A. If for whatever reason you need specific answers, then you're going to have to hire me to do that. And that's my job. That's what I do for a living. And so you can book a consultation with me, and you can do that through the link on our firm website. And I post that link all the time, but I'll post it again here in a little bit. But that's the best way to reach out. Or you can send me an email if you really need to mholthy@stringham.ca. And if it does not have EE Live, let me grab the right one here. If it does not have EE Live Q&A in the subject line, then I usually send those to my assistant, Charlene, who then sends you out a request to book a consultation. All right. If your email to me has EE Live Q&A, then I'll consider it for the next episode of our Canadian Immigration Podcast. All right. So I just wanted to remind everyone about that because, guys, everybody privately messages me to my Mark Holthy Messenger account. And it's not possible for me to answer everybody's questions. So there we go. All right. Looks like Raju is tuning in from the island of Bahrain. Wonderful. All right. Okay. Updates. Next on our list is the updates to our group. And I know that many of you, I'm going to share my screen here and I'm going to go back into full screen mode so that you guys can see this. So this is me talking right here. Actually, that's a different one that I did. but I want to show you right off the bat. I'm going to click on our page here. I'll make sure I get to the Express Entry Law page, and then I'm going to open up. Okay, there it is. And interesting here. There, it's not wanting to scroll for me. If I click on About, I want you to show you something. I never had rules before. I never did. Confirm. I never had rules. What the heck? I think I just deleted it. Oh my goodness. Guys, this is awesome. This is the greatest EE Live Q&A to date. This is Mark scrambling, trying to show you guys things. Everything is falling apart. I need one of you guys to be my private tech person to actually go through and do this. Now I've deleted exactly what I was going to show all of you guys. Oh my goodness, this is so awesome. Okay, fine. I'm going to do it right here. Rule number 1, okay? And you guys can see this. And if you haven't seen it before, I don't know how to get it back. Maybe one of you smart people that are smarter than me are able to do this, but I don't know how to get it back. So 1 are no promoting other consultants or lawyers in the group. Okay, so that's rule number 1. If you do, you will get bounced. This is a private Facebook group, and as you can see, that's one of the reasons why I changed the profile picture so people would know this is a Canadian immigration lawyer, me, as you can see, who founded this group and created a step-by-step guide. And so don't promote other consultants or lawyers, okay? And no asking for access to paid IELTS resources or endorsing another, we'll put here IELTS instructor, not an affiliate of the Canadian Immigration Institute. And so this is where I put in here, Chris Enders is endorsed, okay? So I'm going to flip here. This here, you guys, it's kind of blurry here, but that's okay. This is Chris Enders. He is awesome. He is the guy that I refer you to if you're looking for information on how to do better at the IELTS exam. He's a former IELTS examiner, and he's awesome. And he's the guy that I support, and he gives tons of free stuff. He helps you guys in ways that I do, and that's why I like him so much. All right, so he's the guy I endorse. If you post anything else on our group, that it relates to another affiliate, another person who is teaching about IELTS, I don't know them, I don't trust them, and I don't want people posting from this private Express Entry group that other people should use them, because I don't want people thinking that somehow I've endorsed them, okay? So Chris is my guy. He's the guy that you'll see him post things within our group. But for those of you who want to encourage anyone else to use someone else, don't post it on my group. You can do it wherever you want outside, but this one is just for me. Now, I want to show you something else. You can see here, no asking for access to paid IELTS resources. Other people create resources out there, and I respect them. They put a lot of time in, and then they charge for it. And so I want to show you something here. So this one here came in. It doesn't matter, Verinda, whatever. But the question is, a new member, 17 hours ago, anyone have Liz IELTS paid videos? Thanks in advance. Guys, this is not cool, okay? It's not good to take someone's proprietary information, purchase it, and then spin it out. Imagine if someone, and I don't know, maybe you guys are doing it, had access to the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide. This is my course, right? This is the one I put hundreds and hundreds of hours into building for you guys. Imagine if someone enrolled and then they just shared it, their access, with all of their friends so that they could go in and use it themselves. You know, I wouldn't be getting any credit for the use that the other people are getting from it. And so in like manner, when people are coming on the site and asking for other people to give them proprietary information for free, I do not like that. I really don't. It's not fair to the person who creates it. And so you can see everybody, yeah, share with me, all free. Well, holy crap, guys. Like, there is an expectation that if someone is actually charging for something, there's a reason they're charging for it. It's because they're an expert in their field. They have something of value and they've worked hard to create it. And so for you just to give it away, it's not your right to do that. So This one right here, as I show you, everybody, and then here someone's like posting a description to it and everything. Well, I feel bad for Liz if everybody's sharing all of these resources, and maybe they're not actually sharing their private access, but the reality is those kinds of things, this is what happens. So Verinder, because you're new to the group, I'm just going to delete this post, okay? But please understand that that is definitely off limits, okay? And then the third one is no offensive comments or profanity. This is a family rated podcast. So make sure that no one, if you post anything offensive or people get into any kind of racial comments or anything like that, you will get blocked. So not just deleted, but you will get blocked, okay? And so these are really, really important things. And, you know I had something else on here as another thing not to do, but I'm just going to leave that at that. And so it's up there, and then I'll fix the rest of the stuff after. But I've wasted far more time than I wanted to going through this. But that's one of the updates. And you can see here with the banner page, I want everybody to know that I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer. So when you go on and say, you don't need to hire anyone, you can do it yourself. Guys, I had previous podcasts about this, but you have no idea how many people reach out to me after they have gone through, relied on many of you as the authority for doing the immigration application from start to finish, followed what you have done. And I'm just going to go back here to the full view for you. They followed what you've done step by step and then got their applications refused. Understand, please understand, just because you made it through doing it your way does not mean that it's going to be the same for everyone else. There are different officers who have different expectations. And when I'm giving advice, I'm taking into consideration all of the different contingencies, all of the many applications I've filed, and the predilections of the officers. And I'm following what the law says. And so when people go on there and say, you don't need to hire a lawyer, you can do it yourself, you can't trust them, understand, guys, that not only is it a little bit hurtful to me, given the fact I've created this group, but also it's a total lack of understanding of the role that qualified representatives play. And the problem I have is that many representatives out there are a joke. They are brutal. They take advantage of you. They screw you over. They take your money. They do all of those things. But guys, that is not something that is going to be promoted within this group. And for you, many of you, you say, well, Mark, I can't afford this. I can't afford the $200 to hire you for a 30-minute consult. Well, my answer is, how are you immigrating to Canada? If you need, as an individual applicant, $12,300 to be able to land, how in the world can you not afford, if you have specific questions you don't know the answer to, how can you not afford to retain me for a 30-minute consult where I can pretty much answer all of your questions? It just doesn't make sense to me. But it's your choice, and many people can't. So what I did was I created the complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. So this is why I created this Express Entry complete step-by-step guide. And this is why I offer it for a monthly subscription of $97. This walks you through the whole process, not just someone listing step-by-step what you do, but it actually demonstrates and shows you everything from creating your first MyCIC account all the way through. And no, it doesn't answer every single possible question that each person could have related to their own specific circumstances. It doesn't. But it will give every single person the foundation they need to do, to the foundation that they need to know to get through this process without getting caught up by or tripped up by some of the main problems that people face. Okay? So that's why I created that. All right. I'll take that off. Okay. I've been going through a lot of things and I apologize, but each of these things was really important and I needed you guys to understand. And there's, Mark looks very tired and pissed. Good call, buddy. Guess why? Because we're just about at Christmas. Oh, do you know what, Nishant? It's totally cool. Listen to this. I'll tell you guys, this is me, okay? And I think if I didn't care so much about the clients that I have and their well-being, then maybe I would look a lot more well-rested. But the reality is most nights I'm up at 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m., very little sleep. because all of my clients want their applications filed before Christmas. They want everything done so that they can go on their holidays. And the reality is I'm going to be working through Christmas because we have deadlines that have to be met. And so the reality is I'll give you an example, okay? Because of one of the files that I have, I'll give you a perfect example. I had a client who was coming to see a girlfriend, and he knows who he is if he listens to the podcast or listens to this express entry express entry Q&A. Anyways, I was helping him to draft a submission in order to get through the border because he had some prior criminal charges that never resulted in a conviction, but an officer might have had an issue with it. And so what happened was, before he left the U.S. to fly to Canada, he was stopped at the airport. And what happened was I forgot that he was not a U.S. citizen. He was a permanent resident of the U.S. who needs an ETA, an electronic travel authorization. And this has never happened to me before, but it happened on Friday. So he was coming up to meet his fiancée, to meet her parents, and he couldn't board the plane. And so what do most consultants or representatives do? I don't know. You can post. I want you guys to post comments on what you think they would do in these circumstances. It was my fault that I didn't advise him. I could have said, oh, you should have realized, you should know whether or not you need an ETA. I wasn't retained to get an ETA to you. But the reality is, I did not give him the proper advice, and it impacted on his ability to travel. So Saturday, I said, look, reroute your flight to Great Falls, Montana. And when you get there, I will drive down personally and get you and bring you back. And the reality is he had no issues with the border whatsoever. He was not inadmissible to Canada in any way, but he just needed some reassurance that everything was going to be okay. So I informed my wife and my family, her side of the family, that I wasn't going to be making it to our family Christmas party where my kids played their instruments and sang. And instead, I drove down to Great Falls and picked up my client. And it's a 3-hour drive from my house here down there, and brought him back so he could be with his fiancée. And so I did that zero cost because I felt that I should have caught that. I should have advised him. I should have let him know. So if you're seeing a little bit of bags under Mark's eyes and he's feeling a little tired and a little ticked off, understand that that is probably the reason why I'm looking this way today. So anyway, so thanks for listening in. And thanks for bearing with me, but that's just the latest example. And that's how much I care. So when people say a lawyer isn't going to do anything for you, they can't help you, they're not going to add any value, well, fine. Maybe most do. Maybe most will not. But I do because I care about the people that I represent. Okay, I'm done. Now I'm officially going to shift. And maybe I should just delete all of that from the recorded video. It was such a long diatribe. I'm so sorry, guys. Maybe I should delete it. You guys can post comments on here and let me know if you think I should just delete all of that anyways, or whether I should leave it in. But let's get to the actual source of what we're talking about. Okay, the first thing that I wanted to share with you, in the past I talked about the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program, okay? And I said that there's going to be changes coming in January, and that I was scheduled to have a special webinar with them where they explain how the program is going to work, the new express entry stream that they had said was going to be released. Well, I'm going to show you my screen here once again, and I am going to open this up and show you right here, guys, that the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program has actually decided to postpone, and I'll enlarge this so that you guys can see it a little bit better. They have decided to postpone these changes, okay? And why? Because they want to continue conversations with affected stakeholders. Well, who are the stakeholders? Well, by and large, it was all of the international students, those on post-grad work permits who were working in Alberta, who went to school in Alberta, who expected to immigrate to Alberta. Well, with the new Alberta opportunities, and you can see it's not even listed here anymore, the new Alberta Opportunity Stream, which was going to be released, basically cut them out. And so none of them would be eligible for nomination through the province. And can you imagine if you spent all that money and you really wanted to live in Alberta, you wanted to go through the Immigrant Nominee Program, and they said, sorry, we don't care. Well, I reached out to the program manager to ask for clarification. And I said, is this really what you guys want to do, is exclude all these students? And he didn't get back to me. But largely now I understand because of the response to these changes. And so now we'll see what happens. But the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program, no changes. So no express entry stream coming in, nothing to report. But I will keep you guys all notified. Okay, next one. And I want to show you this, okay? This is awesome. I just did this podcast right here. Let's get rid of that. I just did this podcast just yesterday with Janet Thompson Price, who is an awesome lawyer out in New Brunswick. And she did this podcast with me on the Atlantic Immigration Pilot. And I honestly think it is the best P&P program in the country. Now, with that being said, I know some of the other provinces have more facilitative pathways for people like you who are overseas and don't have a connection to the country. But if you have an employer who's interested in hiring you, I'll explain why it is so awesome. Okay, so let me go right to here. This right here, and I'm going to blow it up, make it a little bit larger. This is a little infographic that they've produced. So here's how it works. This is a step-by-step guide that they give you. But if you listen or you go to the Canadian Immigration Podcast, you've got to listen to this episode with Janet Thompson Price. It was awesome. And she covers some of the most important aspects of it. But right here, Atlantic Immigration Pilot, it starts off with the employer receiving a designation. So they apply, they get approval through the program to be a designated employer, an approved employer. And part of the process is that they help with you as a foreign national in settling in the Atlantic provinces, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, St. John's, and so Newfoundland. So Newfoundland and Labrador. So those Atlantic provinces are the ones that participate in this. And so this program was created to facilitate the hiring of foreign nationals, and not hiring, but actually bringing them to the Atlantic provinces. And there's a number of different categories, but step one is the employer becomes designated. Then once they become designated, they then get an endorsement, which is kind of like a nomination with you. So once they've identified you, then they work together with the settlement service provider to make sure that there's a plan in place to settle you, to get you and your family there. And it includes, the programs includes even skill level C. So not just A and B, but skill level C. And the best part of all with this whole process, and you can see it right in this green bubble, is that a labor market impact assessment is not needed. And so an employer who wants to issue a job offer essentially to you or hire you for you to come and work in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, those Atlantic provinces, they don't have to go through the same hoops that an employer has to in order to bring you in through express entry. So that's why I think this program is so awesome. It is so unbelievable. Now, there is no list of employers that have been, officially designated that you can go and reach out to. The reality is if you have an employer who wants to offer you a job and they're willing to go through this process and get approved, you can reach out to them first and then even tell them about this program. They may not even know. So that's how this step-by-step, the Atlantic Immigration Pilot works. Once you get an endorsement from the program, you then use it just like a provincial nomination to apply for permanent residence. And like always, there are huge advantages to this, and you can see that applications will be processed in 6 months or less, just like express entry. So you guys are wondering where to go, where to live? Not Ontario, not BC, British Columbia, but the Atlantic provinces. And they go to such amazing lengths to get you settled, to help your family get settled, to put in place a plan to get you in the province, to use your skills to make the provinces better, to make the Atlantic provinces just so much better. And that's why I think it is so awesome. All right. So many people have also asked me, and we're going to transition into the next topic. So AINP, no changes, at least not right now. They put a hold on it. The Atlantic Immigration Pilot, as I go back here, I truly believe that it is the best immigration program in Canada. And then the third, many people have asked me, okay, we know with express entry that you can get an extra 50 points or even 200 points if you have a job offer. And we've talked about that. I covered it in past EE Live Q&As. But what I want you guys to understand is that the LMIA process for an employer to get to be actually recognized for the purposes of express entry, that job offer, is not easy. So let me explain to you what an employer has to do in order to get an LMIA for you. And this is why many of you will realize that these fake letters that you're getting are just not, they're just fake. They're not real. Because if none of these steps have happened, and you would know, trust me, you would know, then they're just trying to steal your money. Okay? So right here, this is how to hire a skilled worker to support their permanent residency. Okay? And the pillars of the LMIA process are that there has to be, and you can see highlighted here, wages. They have to be at the prevailing wage rate, and the employer needs to conduct very, very intensive recruitment efforts. So I've clicked on the wage section here because the wage that the employer has to pay you must be at the prevailing wage rate. And so people will say, well, how do you do that? Well, it's published on the job bank, and this is the job bank right here. So I'm going to see who's paying attention and who's sleeping. And I see a lot of people here who are posting comments. So I want you to give me an occupation. The first person to give me an occupation to search, I'll tell you what the prevailing wage rate is in Canada. So let's see what you guys have to show me. All right, I'm going to get back here, and I'm waiting for someone to give me an occupation. And I'll tell you what the prevailing wage rate is. And this is the first step, because the employer cannot get the LMIA approved unless they're paying the prevailing wage rate. Okay, here we go, 11.23, Kabir wins. Okay, so let's go back here, and I'm going to see if I can get back to the one I want. There. Okay, I'm going to blow this up, and oh yeah, now people are going crazy. Awesome. So Kabir, you did win, 11.23. So here's what we do. We go into menu, and then I search by wage. And this is where you get the labor data in Canada. This is where you go to research careers, research job opportunities. This is the official government source. So we're searching by wages. And so Kabir said 11.23, okay? Communication specialists, fundraising consultants. It doesn't matter what all these titles are. They're all 11.23. So we click search. And Kabir, tell me where you want to live, okay? So post here, Kabir, you're in. So post to me where you want to live in Canada. I don't care. You can even give me a city. Okay. And I'll tell you what the prevailing wage rate is. This is what your employer would need to pay you in order for your job offer to work. Okay. So let's see Kabir. I'm waiting for Kabir to tell me where he wants to live. And while he's doing that, there was other people have asked, hey, how about special discounts for holiday season? You guys are killing me. My rates and everything that I've got set are actually at a position where I'm a break-even point with my practice. But you know what? Okay, Kabir says he wants to go to Toronto. Oh, Kabir, that's not even creative. Okay. It's Toronto. So I'll let you guys know if I decide to do a discount or something like that. But you guys, if I do this, you guys are going to have to act fast, because when people put when I do a discount, then that means a whole bunch of people hire me, and then it throws off my workflows. But if you move quickly, then it gives me time to actually plan and organize so that I've got the resources, because I will not take more clients than I have the capacity to manage. And we do have capacity to take on a few more right now, but if people are willing to jump on board quickly, then I may consider releasing a discount. But for now, hang tight. Okay, so let's go to Toronto. So here is this is for basically advertising, public relations. Okay, and so if we look here, it's divided by province: Alberta, BC, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Nunavut, and here's Ontario. Okay, so when I look at this right here, I can see Toronto is right here, And then from here, you can go across and you can see, look at that. $30 Canadian an hour is the prevailing wage rate. And you can see here, entry-level jobs. So if you're a postgrad student, you start your first job, you might only be paid $18.27, right? New students right out of school. But if the prevailing rate, which is basically the median or the average, is $30 Canadian an hour. So that is what the employer, if they wanted to get an LMIA, they would have to offer you that position at $30 an hour. But it doesn't end there, folks. It doesn't. So if we go back here, that is just the wage. But there are actually recruitment and advertising requirements. And the employer not only has to do the actual wage, but depending upon, and the wage for you is $30, so guaranteed it's going to be a stream for high wage. Okay, so we click on that. So basically, the employer has to pay a $1,000 fee themselves, not you, them, to the government. That's the first step when they're submitting this application. It's not the first step, but the application fee is $1,000. And then they have to assess whether your business is legitimate, all these kinds of things, transition plans, and the recruitment efforts are very, very clear. So you can see that you must advertise, the employer must advertise on the job bank, which is, guys, this right here is the job bank. And there's a place where employers post jobs. It also contains all of the career and other information related to the reports related to your occupation. Okay, but it has to be posted on this job bank, and you can see here at least 2 additional methods of recruitment that are consistent with the occupation. So you guys can see that they actually have to go through this process. They can't just pretend like they did, but they have to formally post at that wage level. So any Canadian or permanent resident that wants that position and applies for it, they have to give them the job first. And in a depressed economy, that is why it is so difficult for foreign nationals to get these job offers in Canada. And if you go through here, you'll also see that there's now the job match service. They're forcing employers to really look at it and to use it. But understand, it's with a view to hiring Canadians, not foreign nationals necessarily. So this is one of the expectations. Then within every job, you can see that it has to have occurred in the 3-month period. So recently, 3 months, within 3 months of submitting the labor market impact assessment application. And it has to be for a minimum of 4 consecutive weeks within that 3-month period. So this is they're not joking around. You have to post on the job bank, which is free, but the other sources are often paid sources, like Monster, like Workopolis, okay? And the job advertisements have to list very specific information so that a Canadian knows exactly what the job is, how much it pays, what the expectations are, what the working conditions are, what skills are required, what education and work experience, okay? So an employer has to go through all of that, you guys, all of that before they can hire you. And so if you're posting, hey, I got this job offer and it's got some ugly Canadian flag watermark, it's a scam. It's a scam. Okay? So I hope you understand that is what it takes an employer to go through. That's what they have to go through in order to get the job offer recognized by Express Entry for you to use in your Express Entry profile and your EAPR to go through. So if you want that extra 50 points or 200, depending on the skill level, that's what employer has to go through. And you cannot pay that $1,000. You can't pay the cost of it. Okay? So that's how it works there. And I apologize to all you guys. I have to really focus on what I'm doing because with this new program, the comments are all flowing and it's hard to stay focused. So bear with me if I don't get to your comments right now. Okay, last teaching moment for you guys today. I want to explain a recent question that was asked about proof of funds. Okay, and let's see if I can find it. I'm going to go here and I'm going to once again share my screen. And I'm going to blow it up. And we're going to go right here to the last one on my list. And this question is from Arthi and Balajan. and Balagan. And he asked basically, can we declare gold as proof of funds? Okay. The source of all information on proof of funds is on the IRCC website, at least what they've posted. The reality is your money has to be liquid. So gold fluctuates in value up and down, just like your home in your home country fluctuates up and down. So you cannot use a home appraisal or a gold appraisal as your proof of funds. You actually need to convert it. You need to sell it and exchange it for cash. Get that money in your account as liquid funds. And so it's kind of a cool question. No one's ever asked me about gold, but the reality is precious metals, anything, you can't use those to demonstrate proof of funds. So it actually needs to be in an account. It needs to be in a way in which an officer can look at it and say, yes, that person actually has the resources to settle in Canada. And it needs to meet the minimum amounts. And we know a single person, it's $12,300. At least it is right now, Canadian, that you need to show. Okay, so that's the answer, Arthi. All right. Thanks so much for posting that question. I really appreciate it. And today, because there was such a significant amount of teaching here, I'm going to now open it up to answer your questions for the last few minutes here of this Express Entry Law Q&A here on our private Facebook page. So I'm going to shift over here and see if I can follow it. So starting now, I'm going to start answering some questions. And right now I see Nishant says, but we get no replies at all from employers on the job bank. And I wonder if I can flip back here. Bear with me a second and go here. There, good. Okay. So yeah, he says we get no replies. And you're right. You don't get replies. The reason for the lack of replies is because there's Canadians out there. And also because it's an obligation for employers who are participating in the LMIA process to post on the job bank, many of those employers are doing it purely to satisfy the requirements of the Canadian government. In other words, they already have a foreign national identified that they want to hire. So they don't have to consider you. All they have to consider is the Canadians and permanent residents who apply. Okay? All right. And Arthi says, hi, Mark. Thanks for your answer. Oh, you bet. You're welcome. Okay. So that's the answer, Nishant. That's why it's not an effective means of finding a job by a foreign national. Okay. And yeah, Nishant says half of the jobs have condition to be in Canada. That's exactly right. So it's not designed, and it never was really a good system for matching Canadian employers with foreign nationals. It wasn't designed for that. It was to help Canadians who are looking for a job match with an employer. And the government does everything in their power to make that happen. Okay, Mohammed says, can you please tell me, do I have to submit all my passports, current and previous, while uploading the docs after ITA? This is, when you look at the instructions, the little radio button within the document checklist, you will see that it does not ask for all of your old copies of your passports. Sometimes officers will come back and ask for those proof if they're trying to identify travel history, they're trying to identify whether you've spent more time in a certain country than you indicated, or that there's discrepancies or inconsistencies in your travel history or your personal history. And sometimes people don't fully declare where they were at in some countries, and it would have otherwise triggered a police clearance requirement. And then I've seen people get their applications refused because they'd actually spent more than 6 months cumulatively in a country, which triggers the need for a police clearance in that country. So there isn't an obligation for you to provide all old passports when you submit your express entry application, but they can always come back and ask for them. Okay? All right. Oh, and Raja says, and for 3 people. Okay, I'm assuming he means proof of funds. You can just Google proof of funds and you can find it. Okay. All right. Okay. I do this because I'm helpful, right? That's my job. I help you guys. So CIC, and then we go proof of funds, and we pull it up and we click on the official Canada.ca, and then we scroll down here, 3 people, 18,825. Bang. There you go. Okay, so then I'll shrink that down and we'll get back to answering some more questions. Okay, all right, so if you ask me, oh, and this is another thing, if you ask me, hey, do I qualify? here's all the requirements that I have. Here's all my human capital. Understand, I can't answer that in the context of a comment. You would need to actually engage me as your lawyer to give you a formal review. And I don't look at just express entry. I look at everything to see if you qualify. Okay. Okay, so let's see what Prabhat says. Hi, Mark. If someone has done 4 years PhD and they were employed and paid as doctoral assistants by the university, would that fulfill the work requirements of express entry, or is it just accepted as the doctoral study only and not accepted? Okay, this one here relates to whether or not you can claim work experience while you're going to school. And at the end of the day, Prabhat, if you're outside of Canada, you're going through the Federal Skilled Worker Program, there's no restriction on claiming work experience while you're studying, not like in Canada with the Canadian Experience class. So if you meet the minimum requirements of skilled experience that's set out in the Federal Skilled Worker Program, if you have your 1,560 hours in a year, or you can have 2 years part-time, you meet that 1,560 hours. If you worked a minimum of 30 hours full-time, if you were working in a skilled occupation, which you would have in this case, as long as you meet in a minimum, those minimum of 30 hours a week, then you can use it. So you just have to meet those minimum requirements and be able to demonstrate it. Okay? Okay. And then Muhammad says, as it says, passport multiple. Often the multiple relates if you have more than one citizenship. But when it comes to passports, okay, do you know what? I wonder if there's a way for me to look at this. Just give me a second, folks. This always comes back to me wanting to be accurate, because this stuff changes all the time. And I never, ever want to be in a situation where the government has changed something and I'm advising all of you guys to do one thing and it's not the same. So let's do this. Okay, so here's what's considered to be complete. Copy of the biographical data page of the passport or travel document to confirm the applicant's identity. A clear and legible copy of the biographical data page of a passport or travel document must be provided. Okay, individuals who must submit this are these people. So here within this relates to identifying your actual citizenship and your identity. If you will see when you complete your express entry. Oh, sorry, I didn't even share my screen. I apologize, guys. See, this is me. It is one of those days. You guys just have to bear with me. Some days I'm totally on my game. Some days I'm not. I just went to the completeness check website, which is the policy for IRCC right here. And I went to the instructions for passports right here. Okay. And you can see this is specifically what they say. So you just need to provide a clear and legible copy of the biographical data page right here of a passport or travel document. That must be provided. That's the minimum. Often it says multiple. If you've listed multiple citizenships within your application, then sometimes they will want proof of those multiple citizenships. But understand, it's a complete waste of time, a complete and total waste of time to include multiple citizenships. It doesn't help or anything. Okay, there we go. Good question, though. Thanks for calling me on it. And if I ever say anything and you notice something on the website has changed, my job is to know whether or not things have changed or not. But the reality is, no one is perfect. And if you guys are so vigilant, if you see something that's different on the government website than I'm telling you, then let me know immediately and I will correct. But usually I pride myself on understanding how things are supposed to work. Okay, let's see what's next here. Okay, Abhishek says, hi, Mark, from 2009 July to 2011 June. I'm going to try and pull this a little bit closer here. Okay, so it says, so I worked as a music composer and arranger at an NGO theater production in Kolkata, India. Cool. It was part-time, about 18 to 20 hours per week, but the pay was very low and was paid cash. My question is, will I be able to claim 1 year of work experience from this with just a reference letter? Well, the government only asks for a reference letter, and if it's complete, that's the minimum expectation. But you have to be prepared to demonstrate, because it also says to provide pay stubs if available. Well, if they're available, that's great, then you include them. If they're not, then you have to be prepared to show that you actually were paid. Now, the amount that you're paid is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. There isn't a prevailing wage that's assigned to work experience overseas. You just have to be paid and show that you were. When it comes to part-time, if 30 hours is full-time, then 15 hours is what you would need to show for part-time over 2 full years. Okay, so it's possible. You just need to be prepared in case they come back and don't believe your letter or want other evidence. And that's where maybe you have to show if you deposit that into a bank account, if you pay taxes on it. There's a whole bunch of other things. Okay. Okay, and then Arthi says, thanks for your answer. Does it need to be in your bank account for 6 months? Okay, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to show you guys our lovely page here, the completeness check page. And I'm going to find, they've changed this on me. So, of funds. There we go. I'm going to go right here to this. And you can see here that it says, to confirm whether you meet the low income cutoff. Okay, so that's that proof of funds that we talked about, $12,300 for an individual, $18,000 plus for 3 people. You need to provide the official letter from the bank that lists all of your accounts, outstanding debts, credit cards, those kinds of things, printed on the letterhead, and the key here, as well as the average balance for the past 6 months. So if you have those funds in your account for the past 6 months, the officer is rarely going to ask any questions about that, because they will believe truly if it's in your account for 6 months, then it's yours. It's not a loan from a family member. It doesn't come from some other source. But I recommend to all my clients that they do have it in there for 6 months, but it's not specifically mandatory. You just need to be able to demonstrate that the funds are yours. They're not a loan. They're liquid and they're completely available for your full use. Okay? So that's really, there's no mandatory that it has to be in for 6 months, but I try to get my clients to do that just because I want to avoid any question from an officer. I want to remove as much of the decision-making and the uncertainty from them as I possibly can. But what am I? I'm just an immigration lawyer. Okay. All right. Okay, let's see. Syed is Dubai. Welcome, Syed. Okay, let's see. Aaron says, are fixed deposits valid for proof of funds? You need to define that. Every country has different banking rules. And so fixed deposit is probably some kind of an investment account. And those are. You can use those. You just need to show that those are available and the funds that you have in there are actually your dollars, what's available. Because even investment accounts go up and down in value with the market. And so you need to make sure that the funds that you pull out are going to be sufficient to meet the proof of funds. Okay. Okay, Adib says, what is the quota for 2018? Is it the number of permanent residents or ITAs that CIC will issue? It has nothing to do with ITAs. It has everything to do with the people that actually land and become permanent residents. So that's where people sometimes get confused. They assume that because so many invitations to apply have been issued, that therefore that relates directly to the number of permanent residents that have used up the government's annual levels planning totals. So don't be deceived with that. Don't be deceived, because people cancel or decline their invitations to apply, and then they get another invitation to apply. Well, those two are maybe only will really be associated with only one person. Okay. All right. Raja says, Mark, I have a UK postgraduate diploma, I think. Is it considered as master's for ECA by Wes? Dude, you just need to submit it to Wes and they'll tell you. I can't answer that one. Okay, Nino says, it's so hard for us who needs a license to be able to migrate to Canada. I'm assuming professional license, and whether or not you would then be able to actually practice in that profession. I agree, it can, because of the different levels of education and the standards. Even for a lawyer, you can't just come to Canada and then automatically be accepted to one of the law societies to practice. You have to they have to ensure that your foreign credentials are equivalent to the Canadian, and including the standards for licensing if you are a professional. So I agree, Nino. Okay, Kabir says, I want to know, in case I have 1.5 years in NOC 1123 and 1.5 years in NOC 1241, can I claim CRS points for 3 years? Thank you. The answer, Kabir, is actually yes. The reality is you need to meet the minimum entry criteria for the Federal Skilled Worker Program if you're outside of Canada, and that is 1 year of continuous work experience. But when it comes to the comprehensive ranking system, you can list other skilled work experience to add up to that to add your comprehensive ranking system points. So it is possible. Okay, let's see here. We get lots of people. You guys stop repeating it. Once I say post your comments, then just post it once, okay? All right. Okay, Varna says, I have a score of 450 and I'm hoping to get an invitation soon. I've been gathering my documents and received my employer letter signed in October. Is it okay if I use an employer letter received 3 or 4 months prior to getting an ITA? Absolutely. There's no issues whatsoever with that. What'll happen is the date on that letter will confirm the amount of time that you're going to be able to claim. So if you don't need to claim work experience after the date that letter is signed, then you're fine. If it's for a past employer that you're not working at anymore, then yeah, that's not a problem at all. Okay. All right. Thanks and thanks. People are saying thanks. Okay. Syed says, can husband and wife both separately submit their profiles if they both are working? Waste of time. Pick whoever's the top and have them as the principal applicant. Nothing's added by either of you by submitting two, because one of you will always rank the highest, and whoever has the highest CRS score is going to get drawn. So if they're above that pass mark, and it just confuses things if two people have profiles and two people get ITAs, and it just doesn't add anything. Okay. Okay, Ashwin, I answered your question about minimum time. Let's see here. Watching from Saudi, Amina, great. Okay, Mimuna says, hello, Mark, how can someone without job offer apply to Alberta PNP? You can't. The program is dominated by employer-driven applications. So generally speaking, it would be a very, very exceptional situation if an employer, now technically it says you can get an approval to bring in someone directly through the AINP, but generally speaking, it just doesn't happen. That the AINP isn't set up like other provinces. Okay, Raju says, hey, Mark, I'm traveling to the neighboring country often for work, but I never stayed overnight. Do I need a PCC? I don't have an address there because I never stayed overnight. Oh, you guys, like I swear, like, police clearances from Pakistan and countries like that are a nightmare. I really, when it comes to the detailed requirements, if you cannot obtain a police clearance because you do not fulfill some requirement in your domestic, in your home country, then you need to do the very best that you can and then explain to the officer. Okay? So if you travel to a country, even if you spent an hour in that country during that day, they would still consider that a day physically present. And so if it's cumulatively at least 6 months, then it's entirely possible that they could require you to get a police clearance. But you need to show and demonstrate that you can't, that you're physically prevented, that they won't grant one to you, and just explain. So that's where your letter of explanation is really important. Okay. Rana says, for entrepreneur businessmen, what documents are required to prove business? Okay. I've got just 2 minutes left, so I'm going to answer one more question after Rana. But I'm going to jump on here. I'm going to blow this back up so everybody can see. And then we're going to go back to work experience. I'm going to go and find again work experience. Okay, so proof of work experience. If we go here and we take a look at this, you will see, Rana, that there's a section specifically for people that are self-employed. Okay, so that's where you go. And you'll provide evidence of self-employment income. And some of the examples, it says, you're going to have articles of incorporation or some other evidence of business ownership, evidence that you're actually working for people and they're paying you, and documentation from third parties, confirming that they've used your services. And I always get confirmation from those third parties that stretches out across all of the time that you want to include for your work experience. Okay. But remember, you can't just self-declare, these are my duties and I worked in this occupation, because the government does not like that. All right. So that's the basic information for that. And then I'm just going to jump back here to the last question. Sean says, Mark, funds should be in main applicant or can be in spouse account. Okay, I can answer that it can be in your spouse. However, if your spouse is non-accompanying, then I definitely wouldn't do that, because you have to show you have the responsibility to demonstrate that you have those funds available to you. If your spouse is accompanying you and it's solely in their account, yeah, you can use it It's okay. You don't have to transfer it. There was a time back in the summer when there was a lot of confusion about that, but that's been clarified by IRCC. But ultimately, the officer has the ability to question anything. But generally speaking, there's no issues with it being in your spouse's account if they're accompanying you to Canada and those funds are available. Okay? All right, guys. Time is up for today's EE Live Q&A. I've got to jump in my car today because I don't have my bike yet, and it's actually snowing. I don't know if you guys can see this, but the snow from when we started it is actually starting to pile up. And the snow is coming down, and I've got to rush off to my get these lovely braces tightened up. Oh, this will be fun. All right, guys, I want to remind you that this EE Live Q&A, as always, is sponsored by the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. So make sure, guys, right here, I'm going to put this finger right over here. Subscribe to that. It's awesome. It's totally worth it. And all of the people that are using it, I've stopped posting videos, but I've got so many video testimonials of people that have used it. So don't trust me, you can trust them. And you can search back through our Express Entry Law Facebook page and see some of the testimonials that I've posted, as well as you YouTubers who are viewing on my Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel. Okay. And if you want to leave a question for me that you'd like answered here, all you need to do is send an email right here to mholthy@stringham.ca. I'll stick that right there. And don't forget to put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. That will tell me that you want it answered right here. Thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. I appreciate all of your support, all of you guys who've been on the Express Entry Law Facebook page, answering people's questions, contributing, sharing your knowledge, and generally just making it an awesome, awesome place. Don't forget to let your friends know about it and have them subscribe, not only to our Express Entry Law Facebook page, but to the YouTube channel. So those of you who like it, click like and subscribe. And that will help it to get out to the masses and let other people know that, hey, there's something here that's actually useful, that's helping people, and not just a bunch of representatives giving you very, very bare bones information and then hoping you will hire them to get the rest. That's not how I roll. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and I promise I will try to be more smiley and happier and more rested the next time we're on as we talk about this crazy world that we all call Express Entry.